Alright, today we're looking at writing differential equations that model verbal statements is what we're looking at. So they're gonna give me a verbal statement, and we want to turn that verbal statement into a differential equation, and then we will work on solving that differential equation. That's what we're looking at today. Okay. Alright, so we want to look at 11, 12, 13, and 14 to get started, and then we'll look at a couple more while we're here. So, number 11. It says the rate of change of q with respect to t is inversely proportional to the square of t. So we want to write that as a differential equation.
dq over dt.
That's the first thing we need to start with, is understanding that the rate of change of q with respect to t is dq over dt. Anybody have any issues with that? Okay. And then it says it is inversely proportional to the square of t. So what do you know about that?
Square root of t.
Inversely proportional to the square of t.
So it's 1 over t squared?
1 over t squared. And there's one other thing we have to put on this problem.
Plus
And that is we have to put a k out front. Anybody know what k represents?
Constant.
Yeah, and it's called the constant of proportionality.
why,
Okay.
why does it have to be k? Does it have to be k?
Make it a k.
K for constant.
What about
You can make it k over t squared if you want. So I would leave it as k times 1 over t squared, or make it k over t squared. Alright, so that's the first one. Next one, it says the rate of change of p with respect to t is proportional to 25 minus t. So what do you got? dp over dt, and that's equal to what?
K
Times 25 minus t. All. 13. The rate of change of n with respect to s is proportional to 500 minus s. What do you think on this one? dn over what? ds. And what is that equal to? K times 500 minus s. Very good.
Does this get way more complicated too?
Not really.
Yeah, look at number 1 on our sheet.
Alright, the rate of change of y with respect to x varies jointly as x and L minus y.
dy over dx.
dy over dx. We can at least start with that. And it varies jointly as x and Ly, or L minus y.
K
X
times
times
k
L
times k times x plus k times L minus 1.
K times x times L minus y. So jointly means we're going to be multiplied together. That should make sense. Alright, so any questions on taking a verbal statement and setting it up as a differential equation? Alright, let's move to the worksheet. Alright, so now we're going to set it up, and then we're going to solve it. And you're going to see that these type of problems are slightly different than what we've been dealing with, but you can handle it. Alright, it says the rate of change of number of bears, n of t, is directly proportional to 1200 minus n of t, where t is the time in years. When t equals 0, the population is 300. If n of 4 is 600, find n of 8, and find the limit as t approaches infinity of n of t.
Those first 4 pairs.
Coach, when I can get into this stuff with bears, focus now.
Alright, anyways.
So, what is my differential equation?
dn over dt equals k times 1200 minus n of t.
dn over dt equals k times 1200 minus n. We'll just use n. We don't have to use nt. Any issue with that?
Nope.
Nope.
Because the rate of change is the derivative, and then directly proportional to the k times 1.
Right now,
How did I know to use dt?
there's T in it.
Because I've got t in the problem, so it's got to be dt. All right, so now we're ready to solve. What do we want to do to solve?
Split up. Integrate.
Solve. So we want to separate. So I have 1 over 1200 minus n dn equals k times dt. Now we can integrate. Let's work on the right side first. What does the right side turn into? No.
One.
K.
kt.
K.
kt plus c. Because what does k represent?
Constant.
Constant. If I'm going to integrate a constant, all I do is add the variable. How do I know it was t? Because of the dt. Good. All right. What about the other side?
The
Natural log of absolute value of 1200 minus n. But I'm missing something small.
Negative.
I need a negative. Harrison, why do I need a negative?
Because you divide by the derivative of the inside.
Because the derivative of the inside would be a -1, so that means I need a negative. Very good.
Or if you do u,
Right.
you could do u.
U would be 1200 minus n, and the derivative of that would still be a negative. I'd still need a negative.
Okay.
All right, now what?
solve for c.
Figure out what C is. So what do I do to figure out what C is?
Plug in 4 and 6.
Plug in what?
0 and 300.
0 and 300. So 300, this would be the natural log of 900 equals, if I plug 0 in here, that goes away. So that means C equals negative natural log of 900.
What if T is not 0?
What
Is
happened?
it always going to be 0?
What happened to the
Possibly.
Because
If it's not 0, you'd still have to plug in 2 sets. They don't have to give you 0, but they're nice to you. Give you 0.
But then C is going to
Like
oh.
300.
plug in 2 sets.
All right, so negative natural log of 1200 minus n equals kt minus natural log of 900.
put it all. Okay. Now rewrite all out.
Now what?
Solve.
Solve it. What do you want to do to solve it?
E.
Let's get rid of that negative first. I got to get rid of this negative over here before I can do e. Now I can do e. And what does that turn into if I do e?
900 G
900
to
d
negative
and then
kt.
Okay.
We can't do the e whenever l is negative.
Say it again.
We can't ever do
Right. You need to get. It needs to be by itself. All right. Now what?
get rid of the
Plus or
absolute
minus.
values.
Plus or minus. And I'm going to subtract 1200 and then I'm going to multiply by negative. So that gives me 1200 plus or minus, what is that, 900 e to the negative kt. At this point, what do I need to decide?
We
Plus or
put it
minus.
positive.
Plus or minus. So what does it need to be?
Minus.
It needs to be minus.
JK.
Which makes the reaction to that. No one.
Now what?
You
Oh,
go
we're not
back where
done?
you plugged in 0 and plug in 4. And, or,
What are you saying?
Or could you just subtract?
I've got to eventually figure out what n of 8 is. So I've got to eventually plug in 8.
Plug in 8.
Why does n of 4 equal 600 help?
Good question. Why do I need that n of 4 equals 600?
Does it make a proportion?
There's something in here I don't know yet that's going to help me find. What is it that I need to
So
find?
you said it wasn't going to get more complicated. This is ridiculous.
I don't understand.
It's not. What's in this problem that I need to figure out a value for?
N.
I need to figure out a value for k.
K.
That's where the n of 4 equals 600
Why
comes into
can't we
play.
just a constant?
So I stick 600 in here.
So we can find out what the constant is.
Just like C is a constant, I found out what C is. K is a constant, I got to figure out what K is. So I plug in 600, I plug in 4. So 1200 minus 900 e to the negative 4k. So I subtract 1200, gives me negative 600 equals negative 900 e to the negative 4k. Divide by negative 900, which gives me 2/3. Then what needs to be done?
Natural log.
Natural log equals negative 4k. And then what needs to be done?
Divide by negative
Divide by negative 4.
And then you plug that back into that equation. That's your answer.
That is not my final answer.
4. Then you plug in 4.
Then I plug in
8.
8. Yes.
Then what does n of 4 equal 600 for?
Where do you plug in the 8?
We just plugged in the 600 form to help me figure out what k was.
Where do you plug in the 8?
Why don't you just plug in 0 and 300?
We did plug in 0 and 300. That told me what c was.
Why can't you use 0 and 300?
Because what happens when I plug 0 in?
K's gone.
K's gone. So that's why I needed something else to help me figure out what k was.
Okay.
So
So
now
what are we plugging 8 into?
we'll get there. Hang on.
So you change your k to that.
For X.
And then you plug in 8 and that's your answer?
Correct.
Or for T.
And this is just super easy?
So that would be, so since there's a negative here, that's going to make it 1/4 natural log of 2/3 times t.
Oh my gosh.
Now I can plug in.
Wait a minute. Can you get rid of the natural log?
Is this on the test?
Can you make that? Can you multiply by that?
Please
Can't
God.
you just
Leave it alone. Because now I'm going to plug it in and I'm going to use my calculator. So at this point I can use my calculator.
Don't worry, because I'm not
Oh. Shoot ball.
So T is 8.
And now I can plug that in, yes.
Couldn't you just bring the
Can you punch that in your calculator?
You'd have to move the 1/4 up to the 2/3 and then you can bring the 2/3
What's that
down.
equal? Like 4.
It's easier just to leave it as it is.
Wait, and you multiply 8 by 1/4 and
Yeah, you get 2. Yeah, you can do that.
So,
Oh.
so let's go way back to whenever you used to explain what we were finding.
We'll get there.
What
Hang
did
on.
you find?
So it was 1200 minus 900.
What does that represent in math?
after this?
This
Is that 10, 10? Is that-
The population of bears after 8 years.
And then it's 1/4 Allen. And then
Okay, but I like 2
Oh,
ln
that-
2/3.
We did all of this for a hypothetical.
Bro, one day you're gonna want to count bears.
And we end up with,
I don't know why you gotta just use addition.
so n of 8 equals 800
Tag them each one.
bears.
Just kidding.
I used to
So how many bears did we start out with?
300.
300. And 8 years later, I have 800 bears. 500 bears more.
I used to think that was a joke back in elementary school when I said the label it. They're like, you be talking about it.
changed that.
I never knew that we were just going to counting it.
This,
Yeah.
Samantha said do the 8 times the 1/4 and give me a 2.
Yeah, that's why I think this is what you said.
So I just did 2 ln 2/3.
Why can't it be the?
Now we need to find the limit. That is correct.
Oh my gosh, you said that was the final
What's my limit? What's my limit going to be?
answer. 800.
0.
Negative
8 to 900.
4.
300.
1,000.
0.
Dude, you gotta help us out here or something.
1200.
What does N of T represent?
A function.
The population.
Which represents the population of bears.
Yeah.
Okay, so as my time increase, what is going to be the maximum number of bears I can have?
Infinity.
Harrison said it.
It's not 800.
1200.
1,200.
Why is it 1,200?
Why is it 1,200?
There's no way there can be more than 1,200 bears.
No, bro.
Because what does N represent?
Population.
The population of
Bears.
bears. And what happens if my population of bears is bigger than 1,200?
It gets 0.
That would be
Have
negative.
negative
Okay.
That'd be negative, which makes no
See,
sense.
what did
So
make
that's
sense
why
to me is that there's
you're
no
gonna be
way
zero,
there can be more
or
than 1,200 bears.
Can't have negative bears.
Oh my gosh. 7-11.
Alright, moving to the back.
Come on.
Wait, the limit was just 1200?
1,200.
After all that, the answer was given to you. The answer was given to you right
Wait, what
there.
was the limit?
It tells you the
Well,
answer. in
Why
the
didn't we find that one out first?
Yeah.
There's a limit for bears. Keep up on running. Wait, guys, this is just
Oh.
You said this was going to be super easy.
Newton's law of cooling. This is not something.
I didn't understand a step of what you just said.
Well, let's see if you can handle this.
I think I'm
He's
pro.
happy.
Class, not science.
Alright.
Making you happy.
Newton's law of cooling. It says the rate of change of temperature of an object is proportional to the difference between the temperature of the object and the temperature of the surrounding medium. Okay? In our particular case, we have a room that is at a constant 60 degrees. So what does the 60 degrees represent?
Okay.
The constant temperature.
6.
What's that
T.
K?
Read Newton's law again and tell me where 60 fits in. What'd you say? The surrounding medium is what 60 degrees represents. Okay? An object cooled from 100 degrees to 90 degrees in 10 minutes, how much longer will it take for the temperature to decrease to 80 degrees? So the first thing I need is a differential equation.
Could you do D with a capital T over D with
That is excellent. D with the capital T over D with the lowercase t. So the capital T represents temperature, the lowercase t represents time. Very good.
I don't know where you're
And it says it is proportional to the difference between the temperature of the object and the temperature of the surrounding medium.
So 60 times.
100 minus 60.
Okay, why can I not use 100?
90 minus 60.
Why can I not use 90?
Because
80.
that's
80.
What the heck?
What is happening to the temperature?
It's cool from
It
100
is
to 90.
changing. If something is changing, what do you have to use? You have to use a variable.
So would it be
T minus 60.
Why am I allowed to put 60 in?
Dang it.
because
Because it's the
that's
difference.
constant.
That's
It
the
is constant. It is not changing. So we're looking at dt over dt equals k times t minus 60.
It's embarrassing, really.
Why is it 60? Why are
Because
you subtracting 60?
Because it says difference between the temperature of the object, which is T, and the temperature of the surrounding medium. Okay, and it tells me my room is at a constant of 60 degrees. So 60 degrees is my surrounding medium.
Okay.
All right, so let's separate it. If I separate it, what does it look like?
1 over 2 minus 60.
Where's small t?
Time out. That one has to be a big T on that side.
You're right. Thank you.
Why is there a big? Why is k with small t? Oh, I don't know.
I learned this on Saturday, I understand.
I got it.
It's understandable.
All right, so I integrate. What do I end up with on the left side?
Natural log of what's equal to 60.
Very good. Why do I? On the first one we did, we had a negative as well. Why do I need a negative on this one?
Negative not.
Right, because when I take the derivative of t minus 60, what do I get?
That's 0 on the right side. So it's
A
just
positive
dt.
number.
I get 1. The derivative of t minus 60 is 1.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. All right.
The derivative of a variable
Yes.
is always 1. The derivative of a variable is always 1.
The derivative.
The derivative or the integral of a variable is always 1.
It's the derivative. the derivative of x is 1. The integral of x is x
So
squared
then
over
the
2.
derivative. Yeah, there you go.
Can I get the hardware and 2 of the nets? No, I don't. I'm just. What's my maximum number? Okay. Yeah.
You should do the differential equation.
Yeah.
Really?
One.
And I said, I'm just gonna write your
Trapeze artist?
Well,
last.
yeah. If I can get the hardware and 2 nets, I'll be happy with that.
My email.
I don't know what else.
I can't
Baseball
change my
nets?
password and get back in. So I.
Put it
really
back
got
in.
on there and get supposed to get it.
It's just
So I might put it outside the window.
Well, when you do it,
Like a pitch, like
Don't
throw it
let
into
it down.
Ready? You just started golfing and
Throw it
started.
in. That's
Well,
what
Correct.
We have to catch it.
But he said hardware too. What's the hardware?
Like for the
computers.
the next.
like it'll
Okay.
be,
Computers.
it'll be like the.
Computer.
Call it
My brother's straight
Right.
business, stupid.
software.
Nets.
See how long.
Software.
Ow.
They have to jump to
Let's see what else we can
They don't
find
have
out.
books.
Oh, that's just
Yeah.
You can open the door for
So
So they told me you
Jump
whenever you land.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Or, not a request, but.
You get a good deal.
We're getting good, man.
All right. So what do I get on the right side?
KT.
KT. There you go. KT plus C. Now what?
Plug in, solve for
Where am I plugging in?
Plug in.
60,
something about 80.
80,
Plug in for K. For T.
100,
100 and
90. 80. 60.
40,
what is my time at 100?
10.
0.
0.
Oh.
100 and 0 is what I'm plugging in first.
Oh.
So natural log of 40 equals C. So C is the natural log
How
of 40.
did you get 40?
Because 100 minus 60 is
I
40.
didn't know that's where you're plugging.
It's like 10 minus 6 and then add a 0 on
Good job.
So natural log, absolute value of T minus 60 equals KT plus the natural log of 40.
C and the K.
Alright, now
Why
what
is
do
that one not? Never mind. No questions.
Because it's positive.
The E.
We want to get the T by itself at this point. So I can go ahead and E it. I get T minus 60. What do I get on the other side? 40 E to the KT. Now what do I want to do?
Wait, why
Add
did that
60?
Yeah.
Oh, plus minus.
Plus or minus. So this is going to be T equals 60 plus or minus 40 E to the KT. Now at this point I need to decide, do I want the positive or do I want the negative?
More positive than negative.
Positive.
Positive.
Needs to be the positive.
Yeah.
Did you turn it?
6 plus 40 equals 100.
No.
That's not why.
Are you
It works out.
Yes.
It would be 80.
Wait, is that right?
Yeah, you're right. Because when I plug 0 in, what do I have to be able to get?
100.
I have to be able to get 100. So when I plug 0 in, E to the 0 is 1, and 40 plus 60 has to give me 100. So that's why I need the positive, not the negative.
Yeah, I'm over here.
You didn't-
All right. So now I need to be able to find the K. So what do I have to do to be able to find the K?
Plug in.
90.
90 and 10. Plug in 90 and 10.
Why 10?
Because it went over to 9.
This is so.
Where's 10 minutes?
10 minutes is how long it took to go.
So if I subtract 60, that gives me 30. I divide, that gives me 3/4. Then what do? Natural log and divide by 10, so I get 1/10. natural log of 3/4.
So is K always a natural log?
It tends to be. So we're looking at T equals 60 plus 40 e to the 1/10 natural log of 3/4 times T. So it says how much longer will it take for its temperature to decrease to 80 degrees?
Plug in.
For
Big
T.
big T.
Oh, that's hard.
Big T. I don't know those those.
You only have two choices.
It's technically 4 letters. E and L.
There's 26.
So I'm going to subtract 60 and I'm going to divide by 40, so that ends up giving me 1/2. Then what do I do? Natural log. The natural log of 1/2 equals 1/10 natural log of 3/4 T.
Multiply by 2.
Multiply by 10 and divide. So we're ready to punch that in.
So taking the natural log of that E doesn't do anything to the natural log. That was
No.
the exponent.
Correct. So 10 natural log, was it 1/2 on the top?
1/2.
So it was-
And it was 3/4 on the bottom?
Yes.
24.094. But is 24.094 my answer?
Be sick.
No. Read the question again. What is it wants me to find?
How long?
Is that 24
How much
pounds?
longer? I have to subtract.
Subtract 10, so my best answer would be 14.094 minutes.
So we found